Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. See a lot of kids here. I want you to stay, but talk a little bit about Hanukkah. But if you don't want to sit, then you can leave and come back in 13 minutes or so as I speak to the congregation. You know, my job is to speak for the next few minutes. Your job is to listen. If you finish your job before I finish mine, you can go, and then you can come back. But if you stay, you got to listen. I always feel a surge of religious energy at this time of year. With so many Americans marking overlapping festivals, I sense a special atmosphere, at least for a brief moment in time. Everyone, or almost everyone, takes off of work. We go to houses of worship and have holiday observances at home, when the entire country seems as if it is searching or yearning for some special spirit. I too get inspired. If you're open to it, you can sense a special spirit, a special sanctity in the air. And if not sanctity, at least there is less sanctimony. Even politicians defer to the seasonal commandment, "Thou shalt suspend pettiness for 2 days." I read that Mitt Romney has suspended his assault on Newt Gingrich during this Christmas weekend. A winter miracle in Iowa, or perhaps prudent politics. Either way, there is deference to the reality that people just don't want to hear that now, that we want to step away from the daily grind and contemplate higher thoughts with our families, with our loved ones, and with our communities. Leave us alone for 2 days, and let us think about charity, goodness, blessings, as we gather with the people who are most important to us. The concept of miracle is at the heart of Hanukkah. Our sages debated for centuries. What is this festival really about? Is it about the military victory of the few over the many? Is it about the liberation and purification of the temple? Or is it about a cruise of oil that lasted for 8 days when there was only enough for 1 day? Overwhelmingly, Judaism highlighted the miracle of oil, the miracle of the burning lights. It was miracle that we most contemplate on these nights. And the second blessing of Hanukkah is She'asa Nisim Lavotenu, who has performed miracles for us at this season and years past. We recite this blessing every night of Hanukkah. It was so important to the rabbis that they encouraged us to do what they called Pirsum Hanes. Not only to think about the miracle, but to publicize the miracle, to promote a sense of miracle to the public at large during this time. It's why many Jews place menorahs on the windowsill. We're encouraged to do that. And in other prominent places, to shine the miracle on the public domain. Let the miracle of Hanukkah be apparent to all. We are commanded to publicize the miracle. And therefore, for the Jewish community, to kindle the menorah is to kindle deep emotions of transcendence. It's a miracle that we're alive. With all due respect to the new prophets of truth, the oracles of science, and the gods of physics, there is much more to the universe than the molecular structure of existence that we can perceive now. In the infinite expanse of space, everything had to be just right for life to emerge on Earth, this insignificant corner of infinity. If you were to start with that proposition, what is the scientific likelihood of life emerging from the physical conditions of the universe? You would conclude that it is so improbable, so close to zero, as to not even be worth the discussion. Scientifically speaking, we shouldn't be here. It is practically, scientifically impossible, and yet we are here. I exist, therefore I am. In our essential human composition, we are believers. It is reasonable to believe, because much of human existence cannot be resolved by reason alone. Even the moral judgments that we apply daily are not based exclusively on pure reason. It might be reasonable to stay at home this weekend and to recharge our batteries, but our emergency food program and our shelter volunteers are coming to synagogue this weekend anyway, so that hungry people may eat and some homeless people might find a bit more comfort during their festival. Moral judgments often transcend reason. It's a miracle that our people, the Jewish people, still lives. With all due respect to the prophets of historical revisionism and the oracles of historical truth, we shouldn't be here. If you were to start a discussion amongst historians in the lecture hall, what is the historic likelihood of Jewish life surviving to the 21st century when no other ancient civilization, even of the mightiest empires, survived? They would conclude that the chances are so improbable, so close to zero, as to not warrant even a discussion. You mean? Looking down from 2 millennia from that moment in time in 165 BCE, when some rather obscure family began a revolt against the Greek Empire, Greece, that their descendants would survive and the descendants of Alexander the Great would not? That Rome would collapse, and the descendants of Rabbi Akiva, who was tortured to death by the Romans for teaching Torah, they would survive? Historically speaking, we shouldn't even be here. And yet we are here. We exist. Therefore we are. And therefore there are Hanukkah menorahs shining brightly all over the city, testifying to the miracle. In our essential Jewish composition, we are believers. It's reasonable to believe because much of Jewish existence defies reason. The existence of the Jewish people alone testifies to the existence of God. I urge you to try and acquire a sense of transcendence during these days. Kindle the lights and kindle your souls. Take a break from the mundane, set aside cynicism, and direct yourselves towards wonder. As you stare into the lights, link yourselves with the Maccabees of old, without whom, in all probability, we would not be here today. And be proud of who you are. This band of freedom fighters perpetuated a tradition that affirms the meaning and significance of this world. You are part of a Jewish tradition that never yields to despair. No matter what, and no matter how dark society is, we affirm that light will shine on humanity. You are part of a Jewish tradition that is fiercely loyal to the concept of justice and is commanded to pursue it vigorously. You are part of a tradition that does not accept the inadequacies of the world simply because it has always been this way. We are commanded to fight against injustice. You are a part of a people of protest. You are part of a tradition of action, a civilization that encourages learning and reflection, but commands ethical behavior. You are part of a tradition that believes in freedom and has set the standard for all freedom fighters throughout history and has been an inspiration for all who crave liberty. You are part of a tradition that does not worship power or conquest. We are motivated not by might nor by power, but by the eternal Spirit. Your tradition teaches that the greatest conquest is the conquest of the soul. You're part of a tradition that is relentlessly intellectual and pluralistic, that questions everything, but does not feel the need to answer every last question. There is room for future generations to give answers as well. I think of all these things at this time of year, and I am grateful, so enormously grateful to the eternal power of the universe for granting me my life and for placing me amongst my people. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'avotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Praised are you, O God, ruler of the universe, who has performed miracles for us in this season in years past. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, O God, ruler of the universe, who has given us life, sanctified us and sustained us, and allowed us to reach this time. Amen.